All right, well, welcome everybody. My name is Anjana Utarid. I am the Executive Director at the Oasis Academy, and you have joined our speaker series this morning. It's designed as a virtual 1-hour session of powerful storytelling, honest conversations, and shared wisdom from thought leaders and individuals who have lived a life of resilience in foster care, orphanages, sex traffic, and homelessness. Together, we'll explore healing, identity, and hope. So, without further ado, it is my honor and pleasure to share with you our speaker, Jayashri Triolo. Jayashri entered the foster care system as a child and endured years of instability, including 2 failed adoptions. Despite these setbacks, she showed resilience and determination. At 17, she made the difficult decision to run away from her foster placement, seeking independence and control over her future. Jayashri enlisted in the U.S. Army, where she found structure, purpose, and a sense of belonging. Following her service, she transitioned into the arts, where her creativity and discipline fueled and accelerated a successful career. Her journey reflects extraordinary perseverance, transformation, and the power of self-determination. So please welcome Jayashri Triolo.
Thank you so much for that sweet introduction. It's
You're welcome.
such a blessing to be here.
We are so grateful that you joined us, Jayashri, and so even more so thankful that you will share your poignant story with us. So let's dive in. Talk a little bit about your early childhood. What was it like before entering foster care?
So I'm the youngest of 4 biological siblings. My biological mother was diagnosed with MS after having my oldest brother, and then she had another son, and then my sister, and then myself. And by the time she was pregnant with me, I was a secret. The family didn't even know she was pregnant with me because they had leaned on relatives, family for support for so long. My biological father was an alcoholic and couldn't keep it together to take care of my mother, who was physically ill, and take care of all my other siblings. I don't have a lot of memories. I have small memories of like houses, and I remember being very poor. I've since found my older biological brothers, and they've told me stories about what those conditions were like. And my brother has told me that as an infant, we had no running water and no electricity, and he would have to take us my sister and I to the corner gas station and bathe us in the sink in the bathroom. I remember there were rats in the house. Yeah. So yeah, it
And
wasn't.
what age did you enter into the foster care?
My sister and my oldest brother joined the army, and then my other brother, who was 15 at the time, he just stayed in the orphanage until he aged out. Um, my sister and I were put in a children's home. It's called the Miami Children's Home in Ohio, and we lived in and out of foster home. So we would stay in the orphanage for a little while, and then there'd be a home that would become available, and then they'd place us in a foster home. And those were yeah, really harsh, horrible. Yeah,
Yeah.
exposed to everything, exposed to physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect. um yeah.
And your sister was with you in
She,
each home?
she, yeah, we were adopted um it wasn't 2 foster families that I ran away from. It was actually 2 legal adoptions that I ran away from.
So what age were you your first adoption?
8,
Okay.
yes,
How long did that last?
till I was 15. And
Okay.
they had been told this adopted family actually, even though I ran away from them, in hindsight, as an adult and a mother, I can look and a woman of faith, I can look back and honestly say they did the best with what they had, because he was an Ivy League Cornell graduate. She was a school teacher. They were people of faith. They were upper middle class. They put us in private school. They gave us structure and a home and like a spiritual understanding. But they had been told they weren't going to be able to have biological children. So they adopted an infant. And then after they adopted this infant, she got pregnant. And then and they had a daughter. And when her daughter was in the fifth grade, their daughter was in the fifth grade, she got hit by a car right in front of their house and she died. And within 6 months, they had adopted my sister and I and put us in her room and her clothes and her with her like, and all the things I had gone through to that point they had no idea.
Yeah.
That even my social, I never remember as a child a social worker actually having a conversation with me about what was happening. I was just placed, whether I wanted to be or not. I just followed along. So in hindsight, I think that in those times in the 70s, you went to therapy. Therapy now it's the way. It's how
Mhm.
we it's a privilege. It's like no one's ashamed to say, I'm getting therapy for that, or I need therapy for that. But in those days, you went to see a therapist or a psychologist if you needed, if you're schizophrenic. It wasn't so much part of our culture. And so instead of getting counseling, they went to faith and I believe their discipline was child abuse. They were really harsh with me, and I just couldn't handle it anymore, like physically beating me, breaking wooden spoons on me, gouging me, like just making me eat bars of soap for saying, bad words. And I was tough. I talk about resilience. I was a tough little girl and nobody was going to tell me what to do.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it anymore. So they said, if you run away, don't come back. And I never went back. I
So
had my,
you ran away, but your sister stayed.
she did, but they ended up disowning her. Yeah.
Hmm.
hmm
And so then now you're separated from her.
No, my sister and I stayed in touch. Yeah,
Mm.
we're very close. hmm
Okay. No, I meant like when you ran away and then they gave up on her too.
They did not right away. We were so that was they lived in this very affluent upper middle class community. It was called a village and private school, and um I was readopted by another family in that same community that I used to babysit for. And they were young parents. They were in their 30s, and I look back and like they were like 32 or 33 and they adopted me. And so I got to go to the same high school with my sister, so I'd see her at school.
Okay. And so now
Um,
you're a teenager with
I'm a
the
teen-
second family.
Mhm. And that my first adopted family would not allow me to contact, even though my sister and I remembered our last name, they didn't want us to know anything about our biological family. But the second adopted family, they encouraged me.
Mhm.
So I ended up finding my brother's name in the phone book, and I just called him my older brother. So that at 15, I was reconnected with my older brothers as well.
Okay.
Um, and I got a lot of questions answered about my early, like
So when did you leave your second adopted family? How old were you?
17.
17.
I lived
Okay.
there a very short time. But
Very
it was a conversation. I sat down with them and said, this doesn't like, I don't want anybody to be my parent. I don't want anybody to tell me what to do anymore. I want to, I wanted to just go live with my older biological brother, and finish high school because I was coming from a private school into a public school. I could have graduated, um, as a junior, but I needed like one PE class and something else. And so I just went to public school for half a year and graduated, high school early. And then, and then I applied to university and, this is actually really where the Oasis Academy could have really served me in my early years is because I didn't have any guidance system. I didn't
Mhm.
have anybody to say, this is how you apply for a grant. This is how you put your application in for college. This is how you manage your bank account. This is how I had nobody. I made really poor decisions and let things fall through the cracks. I mean, now with with so many online resources, you can go to YouTube and watch a video on how to fill out a financial aid application. Or, but then it was maybe a phone call or a guidance counselor or something. But but I think having a support system like the Oasis Academy would have served me so well, just navigating life as a young adult and having all these questions. And I did have some mentors that I look back and I think, wow, they really supported me. And I think sometimes I got like some anonymous gift in the mail or and it came from those people that believed in me that they didn't want recognition, you know. Um, yeah, so I applied to the university, Ohio University, and started university and met this is where I found my spiritual path. It's where I met the
Mhm.
Hare Krishnas and started going to temple and chanting. And this was in the 80s in Ohio. Now everybody does yoga and everybody is understands a vegetarian lifestyle. But
Yeah.
those days, I was in a cult and I was brainwashed, and people were really worried about me.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. I want to reflect back on when you just said that at age 17, this is where the Oasis Academy could have been really useful in helping you apply for colleges and giving some direction. But I also wonder, how would it have been different if both of you and your sister were there at the young age that you were put into the system? The academy will have, it's designed to have all kinds of therapeutic modalities to help the children to calm their nervous systems and really, really instill the therapeutic care that they are needing.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious.
I feel a little like it's a lot to think about hindsight, right? Like how my
Yeah.
life would have been different. Both my sister and I are very creative, and I've always been an artist. It's nothing I became like it, and I think it's where I continued a conversation with the creator and where my protection from spirit has been is through making art. And I think if we would have, instead of being placed in an orphanage and in and out of foster homes, had the stability, because I put myself through, I signed up for the army. I thrive on discipline and structure. I think most kids do as well. But building resilience is amazing, but when you're forced to build it because you have no other way and it's survival, but having something like the Oasis Academy where it's a safe place and it's not based on your grades or it's something that it's we see that you have a gift. We see that you have something that you can, your purpose, your something to offer the world, and a support team to nurture that, where you're not worrying about if someone's gonna crawl into your bed and molest you at night, or if they're gonna, like, I was locked in a dog cage for weeks. They would put me in a dog run and leave. Just to know that you knew where your meal's going to come from and you have a safe place to live and you have resources for supplies and materials and also to have other um friends, other people that are you can relate to and you can support each other and you would build relationships in that environment. It's incredible what you guys are creating here. Incredible. That's another reason why I feel as though I have prayed to God so many times. I need to take because I feel like I'm resilient. I feel like a survivor. I don't feel like a victim. I've never felt like a victim. But I feel so blessed to be a part of this and to use my life story to give hope and help however I can with what you're creating here. So thank you. Seriously.
Oh, and thank you for mentioning that. I mean, obviously, you went through so many difficult transitions, so much unknown as a child. You didn't, like you said, you didn't know where your next meal was coming from. You didn't know if you were going to get a hug or if you're going to get hit. And that takes time to unpack as you're growing up, and as when you become an adult, it takes time to go, oh, wait. What just happened in my childhood? Like, talk a little bit about I know you mentioned the mentors that came in that helped you, but was there someone that kind of stayed with you throughout your childhood and even into your adulthood that you could tap on um, to get encouragement?
So crazy to say it because he just passed.
Mm.
He was a friend's dad who was a minister in our church, but he was also a psychologist at he had like a counseling uh, office that was like the house that was connected to the church. And I lost touch with him for several years, but uh, he was a rock in my life. Like he was so supportive and saw me, and that's actually I ran away to the first adoptive family. I ran away to their house, and he said, and he had been divorced, and so my adopted family didn't like him because according to the church, you weren't supposed to get divorced. So he was already like not on their, you know, they weren't big fans of his. But so when I ran away to their house, he's like, you can't stay here because I'm afraid your parents will say I kidnapped you or something like, but you can go to Reverend Emmett's house. So then he put me over in the Reverend's house. And then it was like, um, my church minister, my pediatrician, my high school guidance counselor, him. I had like five adults write letters to the Child Protective Services saying, this isn't a good fit for her. Like it's not a good place for her to be. She needs another place to live. And he kind of spearheaded that. And I always knew he was advocating for me even when I didn't know. And I remember, oh, this is um, the law of attraction and you whatever you put your mind to, you can manifest. Well, I was doing this as a young adult before I even knew about it. And I remember being in school and thinking, I need $500. Like I need to pay my rent. I need 500. It was really clear. And every day I go to the mailbox, I'm like, that $500 check is going to be, I had no idea where it's coming from. And I think he wrote me a check for $500. He said, this isn't from me. This is from an anonymous donor. And it was for $500. And I was just like, how did I manifest that? But I think it was him and he just didn't want credit for it.
Mhm.
But I never called him or asked him like I need help. Like, where should I live? Should I live in a dorm? Should I do shared housing? Should I apply for student loans? How am I gonna support myself? Um, how am I gonna make it on my own? I didn't know. I didn't know. Um, but yeah, I always felt like if my whole world fell apart, that he would be there for me. So yeah.
So looking back, when you made that decision to leave the foster home at 17, you know, how did you get that courage to to take that leap? Was it just intuition that you said, I'm going to leave. I can do this on my own.
Um, I don't know. I think I think I was just tired of people telling me what they thought was best for me,
Mhm.
or giving me chores or having me. I just felt like I was always just, I don't know.
It was more survival then.
It was survival. I just was like done. Like
Mhm.
nobody else can tell. I didn't have a lot of respect. I loved them. And my second adoptive father, I'm still close with. That mother passed away. Such an interesting story there with her, how she showed up even after her death, how she showed up later in my life, um, in a huge way, right when my late husband was diagnosed with cancer. So this young couple adopted me when I was 15. I lived with them for 2 years, but I had been babysitting and knew them for like 4 years before they adopted me. Um, they were young and she would tell me horrible things about him, and she'd tell me she was not faithful in their relationship and I knew about it, so I didn't have respect for her. And she
Mhm.
was really intense, and I had just come out of this other adoptive family where they were really intense, and I had a lot of chores. I was like mopping the kitchen floor, mowing the grass, weeding the garden, babysitting I just felt like, and the babysitter, and I was just like, no, no. I'm so done with adults telling me what to do, and I didn't really respect her.
Yeah. Yeah.
The father in that relationship I had more respect for, and I love him dearly. She passed, but and then I had found my biological older siblings, and I was cultivating a deep friendship with them, and my oldest brother allowed me to live with him until I started university. So,
Okay. So, as you said, when you joined the army, it gave you the discipline that you craved. And
mhm.
so, how long were you in the army? And when you were there, what kind of what did it offer you other than the discipline that foster care hadn't? And were there individuals there that you made connections with?
Mhm. So I started university um, at Ohio University. And then that's when I met the Hare Krishnas and I got really confused and I was like, am I in a cult? Am I being brainwashed? Like, what's going on? And I got scared and I moved back to my hometown of Toledo, Ohio, and went back and stayed with my brother. And started going to the local university there, taking art classes. And I was really into lifting weights. I was really into physical fitness. And I started going to the gym. And I met somebody at the gym that was a reservist. I was in the Army National Guard, Ohio Army National Guard. And they said, and I really wanted to go to this prestigious private art school. And they said, well, you can be an artist for the army. There's all kinds of jobs for the army. Like you could just go talk to a recruiter. So this person that went to the gym that I had become friends with, I went and talked to a recruiter and they were like, you can be a graphics art specialist and get college credit for being in the army. And I had already started university and knew that I wanted to complete it. And I knew that I wanted to focus on my fine arts. And I knew it's going to take a lot of money. And I didn't have any financial support. So I signed up. So I went to boot camp and then I went to individualized training for my MOS to become a graphics arts specialist. So I was a reservist for 6 years. Yeah. And by the time I finished college, I finished my enlistment. Then I wanted to go live in the temple and be a monk and like live this monastic life and not deal with anything of the material world. It's like I just wanted to chant and meditate. And I did not, this is another way, like having a support system and people that, like the Oasis Academy, could have served me, is I never forwarded my mail when I left my apartment from undergraduate and I moved into the temple. And then 4 years later, after I moved to San Francisco, the uh, United States Department of Education found me and said, you are in default of your student loans. But I thought my student loans were being paid by the US Army and they weren't. So, like all those things where you don't, like
Yeah.
just having people that have your back. And yeah, yep. So
So
that,
how is your personal story? How has that influenced your artistic expression as now that you're moving on from the military, still having that creative piece in you that's starting to come out? How did that start to come together?
I think it's been part of ever since I can remember, always having a sketch pad and a pencil. And my first adopted family, they gave me a drawer in the kitchen. This is June's, that my legal name's June. This is her drawer with her sketchbooks and her watercolors. And they would, and like I said early in the conversation, I've always felt like I don't call it an angel, call it the creator, this conversation with the creator. Like I don't know what's happening in this world and I'm like being moved around and but that's like my rock. Like that's where I go and um I have a temple room in my home and I have special prayer beads that were given to me when I took the name Jayashri and I have a spiritual practice. But all the things that I try to apply when I'm doing my meditation or my mantra meditation is to stop the mind and just to like go to that place where you're hearing the mantra and you're stopping your mind from wandering and you're getting behind your thoughts and nothing comes close to it but art, making something, creating. And I think that it's how I have a conversation with God is when I'm creating. I am a painter. I did go to fine art school. I blew glass for 4 years when I finished fine art school for for master glass blowers. But painting is like, you know, it's my definitely part of my daily meditation. But I'm also a jewelry designer and make prayer amulets. So I feel like I have a passion and a purpose, you know?
Well,
Yeah.
we can see all the beautiful artwork in your studio behind you. And how long, I mean, you obviously started very young with your art expression. And so how has that come to becoming now as an adult and as a mother, as um, a wife, all these things contributed to your artwork.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Um, I don't know if there's a narrative in the imagery that I use in my artwork. I think just the act of mixing paint and playing with it and stopping the outside noise, um, and having that time for myself and being committed to it, doing it and showing up every day in my studio, makes me makes my life more peaceful, makes me more present with my relationships. Um, and when I don't make time for it or put it as a priority in my life, I see where I'm not as grounded, I'm not as present. Um, I feel anxious.
Hmm.
So I don't, I feel like I feel like making art is a prayer.
Hmm.
Um, and then going into the jewelry design and making these prayer amulets. It started, I, I, I don't know if I even mentioned this, but I lost my husband to cancer 3 years ago. And before he was even diagnosed with cancer, I kept getting compliments on these amulets that I would wear. And and I asked my spiritual teacher for his blessings, and I started this company designing and making prayer amulets. But after my husband passed, I realized like so many people put loved ones' ashes in them. And I'm having all these conversations about grief with people. And I realized when Steve passed that I wasn't only grieving his passing, but I was actually grieving the grief I never experienced as a child when I was separated from my parents and my family. And I thought I've mentored, I've spoken in other group homes and told my story so many times. And I thought, you know, I can talk about this without crying. It's, I've worked it all out, but boy, was I wrong. Like, I think there's a lot of deep pain and a lot of things in there. And actually hearing the last speaker, Valerie, speak and how much work she's done through therapy and different modalities, like, um, and I know the Oasis Academy is offering that as well. And I never had that. I mean, I had like the Good News Club and church camp but wow, what we all know globally about healing and things that we talk about now is like, somatic healing um and uh, ancestral trauma and all these things that wasn't part of the conversation when I was younger. Um, yeah, so I'm probably going on a lot too much.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I think that will be a nice segue to the next question. So what message would you give to young people who are currently in foster care or orphanages around the world, or who may be feeling that hopelessness?
Yeah. When I would there's a few layers to that. Because they would be coming through here, so they would have resources. But one thing that I know has been a huge part of my journey and a huge part of what saved me is understanding my intellect and my intelligence and my spiritual intelligence, and knowing to every action there's a reaction. So I would, and I believe that there's a creator. I believe that there's order in this chaos, and I believe that even though it's horrible what I went through, now having this opportunity is taking what seemingly this horrific situation and giving it purpose. So sharing the story and knowing that they can be a mentor and they can come out of it, but listening to their higher self, listening to their intellect, and knowing if you don't know what to do, pause. Don't do anything until the answer comes. Because, and then and I would always tell them, if you make this decision, it's going to have a good effect or it's going to have a bad effect, and you get to choose. If you sneak out of your group home and go hook up with somebody and go smoke pot and joyride all night, you're probably going to be in a lot of trouble. So you need to like choose, are you going to choose the right thing or the wrong thing? And the more you choose the higher thing, or the thing that's in the mode of goodness, or the thing that's coming from a place that's serving you, um, life will unfold a little easier for you. And that's just the laws of nature. That's just karma. And that's what I think. I don't know if this is something the Oasis Academy will work with the children with, but how do you cultivate that in yourself? How do you cultivate the ability to choose the right thing? And some kids are so freaking pissed at what they've gone through that they want to choose the wrong thing because they're just like, screw it, I don't care. And they get this like toughness, the resilience which you need, but how do you cultivate that resilience and stay strong and have a strong will without angst, without anger, without F you. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you stay true to yourself? And
Well, it's familiar, right?
yeah.
If you've been in chaos from a very young age, that's what's familiar. That's what you go back to. So, how that change happens, everyone is very different. Everyone receives the information differently. But I think there is also, there's research and studies done that when you put someone in an environment that's feeding them good, that's helping with them, with easing the chaos and supporting not just with therapeutic stuff, but also the education piece, good nutrition, helping with the spirituality, bringing that all together in a place like Hawaii, which is also such a beautiful, serene environment. Changing that environment automatically helps, your nervous system to calm down. That's the first step. And then you build trust. You build trust with your mentors. And like you just said, when you choose the positive, something else unfolds that's even more positive.
Mhm.
So it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And we're fortunate at the Oasis Academy that we will be able to provide all of those services and go at the pace that the child is ready to go at the pace.
Yes.
Nothing will be forced. And I think that in itself, like you said, that pause
Mhm.
is in that space is when the magic happens.
Yeah. And I think that they'll feel seen, and that, you know,
Yeah,
special, feeling like this is a blessing or a gift to be here, and not like they're put there, you know?
right.
A lot of times you feel like I did. I felt like I was just put someplace. Just, we'll put her here. This is an open spot for her, you know? So, yeah.
Well, how is this? You're definitely a very strong woman, a resilient woman, a very spiritual woman, and your heart is so big and full. How is that impacted when you started your own family and had your own children? And you know, talk about that journey.
Um,
We can pause.
yeah, it's like the biggest gift to be a mom. Like, I love my children so much, and then losing my husband was like another layer to that. Like, I had this family that I never had. And I'm okay. But God, I love my kids. I love being a mother. And a lot of times you think um maybe you'll mess up because you didn't have the best role models. But you learn what not to do. You learn like, oh, I don't want to be that. Like that happened to me, and I don't want that for my kids. And I really think um, that they really respect me and they see me as a strong woman. And I don't know why that made me cry so much. I'm so sorry.
Um, it's okay. Take your time. I mean, children are a gift, and it's
But they're not, I don't believe that they're ours. I think God puts them in our life. Like we're each other's teachers, you know? And they're definitely helping me heal and be the best version of myself. But I always believe that for me, I just feel like just showing them to put God first, the creator, however you want to speak about that, because I truly believe to be born is to be given the gift of death, and that this isn't the end all be all. And what we do in this life is really important, and how we treat others is really important. And they've given me an opportunity to model that for them, and all my kids are just really beautiful souls. So I'm blessed. And I'm blessed to be a mother because on the other side, I never had like a maternal relationship or a paternal relationship really. So now I'm both. Now I'm the mother and the father to my kids. So yeah.
Jayashri, this has been such a beautiful gift to be able to share this time with you and for you to share your story. I'm just curious if the audience has any comments or questions for Jayashri. I think you've moved us all with your beautiful story and your stamina. It's incredible. I appreciate you mentioning the Oasis Academy and how things would have been different had you experienced that. And you know, we are setting this path to support youth and to help them advance their abilities and their aptitudes. And it's a wonderful mission, but having done this before at the Children's Village, I know there's just so many more layers that comes out of it, and their development and the heart pieces that come to light from these beautiful light beings that will come to our academy. And it doesn't just change them. I have seen firsthand, it changes staff, it changes the mentors, the volunteers. And for those of you who don't know, I used to be the executive director of the Sonoma County Children's Village, very similar to the Oasis Academy, but the premise was to keep siblings together. And this is very, very similar. And I hear your story and I'm so moved and my heart is just so full. And I, I just commend you so much for being so honest and sharing I mean, you give us all inspiration and hope. So I'm so grateful that you were able to do this.
I feel as though it's a blessing to be here. And yeah, yeah, when you go through the system and you become, a ward of the court, or you enter into, as a child, someone else's hands that you don't know. Um, just that alone uh, cultivates resilience in you. And I keep hearing this word with the Oasis Academy is resilient. And I'm sure some of these kids that go through the Oasis Academy will feel um, the effects of the support, because not everybody needs resilience. It's like they need something lifted off of them. They need something to fall back into, a safe place. And so, um,
A sense of belonging.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And also I think having each other, having peers, having I didn't have that in the system. other kids that I could talk to, that I could relate to. And also, if so, the way this is how I understand it, the Hawaii property is one campus, but then there's like a Los Angeles campus that's more geared towards the arts, and then there's a San Francisco office which is geared more towards engineering. So there's these different hubs, different places where like-minded um, children with these gifts can be together,
Yes. Yes.
and who knows what will come out of that.
That's right. I think
Yeah,
a lot of good.
yeah,
Yeah.
new inventions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're very excited to launch all of this, and we can't do it without everybody's support and help. And it's people like you sharing your your very impactful personal story that helps us to learn more and to get ourselves grounded when we actually have the children there, and it won't be long. Um, and we're all very grateful for your story and the new stories that will come in these sessions.